Very bad sign. He had already been through this in the army. It was enough to simply do the job without problems, but you can't do better than necessary, and you only have to break this rule. The hero remembered how, having learned about his knowledge and skills, he was forced to build various houses, saunas, and barracks. If the young man got involved with the monarch, then you can forget about the quiet life of a nobleman in the province. The messenger opened his mouth wide and exclaimed that the orders were for Lloyd Frontera and his guard to leave for the King's Road immediately. The boy's eyes filled with tears, realizing that he should have stopped at the compaction of the seabed. That damn lobster had cursed him. He wondered what he was going to do now. If the monarch chose him, he would have to toil for him for the rest of his life. He could try to play dumb, but then they might chop off his head. The carriage drove through the forest, surrounded by guards. The hero's face sank, looking down with an empty gaze. Xavier looked at the gentleman and noted that he looked as if he had been sentenced to death. The young man agreed and looked questioningly at his interlocutor when the latter said that this was unexpected. The knight crossed his arms and said that if it were Mr. Lloyd, he would be in seventh heaven, thinking that he could get rich at the monarch's expense. The brown-haired man looked at the swordsman carefully and thought that he had information. The identity of Queen Magenta, her future, the situation on the royal road. If the hero uses all this information, then he has a chance. Xavier is right. If the situation turned out this way, then he should use it to his advantage. The guy smiled decisively and thought that this would be needed against the royal road. After a while, the main character and his guard bowed, greeting the queen. The ruler ordered them to raise their heads, and the brown-haired man looked at her carefully. A red-haired woman in a cloak stood above him. Lloyd smiled tensely and thought that at some point he was even scared. Her presence was no joke. The brown-haired man lowered his head and greeted the queen as a true mistress of the royal road. The interlocutor arched an eyebrow and said that she thought the second guy was an aristocrat. The hero froze, already accustomed to such a reaction. The woman smiled and said that she could feel the flow of unique mana inside Xavier. She added that the guy looked like he could challenge her.